Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. Today I wanted to show you how I made the trifold, I think it's called a trifold angle card. I don't know that actually. I'm terrible with names, the actual names of fancy folds. Anyway, this was a card that one of my team members asked me to show them how to make. And so I made it on one of my Monday night card classes. So every Monday night at 7 o'clock, if you're interested, it's on Zoom, it's free. We make a card together. And if you have suggestions for cards to make, I'm happy to play with them and see what we can come up with. So this was a card that I made, quite a while ago. And so I thought I would share it as part of the Share It Sunday blog hop. Now, it's using the Share a Milkshake bundle, and I'm so excited that this has been carried over into the annual catalog. Now, my sample actually uses some paper that hasn't been carried over, so I'm going to switch it up. And I'm still using some of the Country Gingham because I don't have anything from the new catalog, but this will still go live when the catalog, the 2022-23 catalog is still live. If you're watching this after May 2nd, 2023, substitute a different designer series paper or substitute a bundle if you don't have the Share Milkshake. This is a really fun fancy fold, and you can make all sorts of cards using it. All right, let me switch over and we will get started. So this is the card that I made during the class, and I'm going to change it up, like I said, the designer series paper. So it opens up like this, and so a little bit of cutting and scoring. So you need your paper trimmer, you need your bone folder, and I have used, I don't remember what this paper is called, shimmer or something. It's really pretty, but it's in Blushing Bride, and I thought it just looked really pretty. I'm going to switch it up and use Petal Pink, Crumb Cake, and Sweet Sorbet. So the Share Milkshake bundle has these great images on it. So the milkshake glass, the whipped cream, the cherry, a straw, and then you can also make cups of ice cream. There is also an amazing die that cuts out a waffle cone. So we're going to use some of these dies. This whipped cream cuts a little slit in it, so you can see my straw sticks through that. And then this is one of my favorite. It's a little grid. I don't know. It's so cute. Okay, so let's get started, and I will show you how to make this card. Okay, so you need a piece of cardstock that's 5.5 by 11. And I think we're going to have to trim it, because let me just see how much it should be. I don't think I trimmed my piece, and I didn't make a note of what it should actually be. So yeah, so you want a piece that's 5.5 by 10.5. Oh, I did trim it. Okay, so 5.5 by 10.5, and we're going to score this at 3.5 and 7. I didn't need that out. Now, I find it easier to score this first before we kind of mark and cut. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn it 180 degrees, and we're going to just put it in and mark it at 2 3/4, which is halfway down. I'm just going to put a little pencil mark at the 2 3/4 inch. Now you probably can't see that, but you just need a little bit. Okay, so now that you've got your pencil mark, you've got it going the right way. What we want to do is, let's turn this. You want to put that little mark in the track. So I've got that mark exactly in the middle of the track, because we're going to now cut. And we're going to turn our card at an angle so that, if I bring this back into position, so that the corner, the top, the bottom corner in this case, so I've got the 2 3/4 inch mark at the top in the track, and I want this corner exactly in the track. Hold it down, and we're now going to cut. So we've cut this piece off of it, and like I said, I find much easier to do that before I find it easier to score before I cut. So now we've got our card base. So this is going to now be folded. So if you take it and fold, so this is the 3.5 inch, and then this is the 7 inch. So if you fold it on itself on the 7 inch and then back on the 3.5 inch, you will end up with a card base that looks like that. So it's really not that hard. So 5.5 by 10.5, score it at 3.5 and 7, mark at 2 3/4, and then you want to cut from that mark up to the top corner off. And you can save this piece to do something else with. Okay, so now we need to decorate. So I, on my card, used some different designer series paper, and that's what we're going to do. So I've gone ahead and at least cut some pieces of designer series paper out. So for this card, I've got, this is the Abigail Rose. So this piece is cut 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. You need a piece of basic white that is also 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. You need 2 pieces of designer series paper. These are the same. This is the gingham, country gingham. And these are cut. The small one is cut 3 1/4 by 3 1/2, and the larger one is cut 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. So we're going to do some trimming of these because we kind of have to get them to be able to be fit into our unusual shapes. So we need to get them to fit here, and we've got this angle on them. So let's take the littlest one. So this is the one. This is the designer series paper that is cut. I'm trying to find a pencil. That's cut 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. Now it's 3 1/4 across the bottom. So the width of this is 3 1/4. So just make sure you're cutting it the right way. So we're going to turn this 90 degrees, and we're going to mark it at 2 1/2. So I've got my little mark there. So this piece is going to go on here, and I'm just going to put it in and make sure that that looks pretty good. So we're going to take and cut like we did on the crumb cake. We're going to cut from that 2 1/2 inch across on the diagonal. And now this piece, pretty good. It's a little bit off, but I'm okay with that. It fits on our first piece. Okay, we're going to do the same for the basic white. So make sure you're doing it. This is a 3 1/4 inch, so this is the right way. So I'm going to turn it 90 degrees, and I'm going to mark this one at 3 1/2. Again, little mark. Put the 3 1/2 inch mark on in the trimmer blade or in the track, and then also the corner. I'm realizing I'm maybe off screen there. And then we're going to cut that little triangle piece off. And again, this piece fits nicely on here. Now, when you're cutting this last piece, so when you've got your card put together, we've got this piece. And so we want to make sure if you didn't put designer series paper, it turns out to be on the back, we would end up with just crumb cake here, and we want it to look pretty too. So this goes the opposite way to the piece of basic white that we just cut. So this folds, and so it's got the slope is to, I don't know how to describe this, but the slope is a different way. So it's going upwards this way, but on this side, the slope is kind of coming down. So we want the designer series paper to fit like this. So we're going to actually mark it on the opposite side. So for the designer series paper that's going to go on the back, we're actually going to cut from the opposite corner. So again, this is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and we're going to mark it at, hang on for a sec, 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. We want to mark it here. So we're going to mark it, I said 3 1/2, but what are we going to mark it at? Well, we can do that. Let's see. Let's turn this over. So we're going to mark it on the back side at 3 1/2. And again, so if I cut this, yeah, that's going to go the right way. I want to cut this so that this triangle, when I bring it back in. So this is the way the card goes. We've got our basic white piece that fits in the middle on the inside, and then this piece fits in here, and it goes the opposite way. So just make sure that when you're cutting it, you're cutting it the opposite way to the basic white. So they're sloping in opposite directions. I hope that's making sense. Okay, now our last piece is the 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. And we're going to take this and mark it at 4 1/4. Now, as you're watching this, you're probably going, oh my gosh, I've missed some of the measurements. Don't worry. The link to my blog post is under this video, and all of the written instructions, measurements, and supply list are on my blog. So if you've missed anything, it will be out on my blog, and you can go out there and get it. And if you have questions while you're watching, just leave a comment either under this video or on my blog, and I'm happy to answer them. All right, so now we've got our pieces of designer series paper, and we can start just adhering them. Now you can use whatever your favorite adhesive is. I like to use the liquid glue because it just gives me a little bit of wiggle room. I'm going to leave that one for a minute because I want to do some stamping on it. That's kind of the inside of what would be the inside of the card, like that. And then this piece, I'm very sad that the Abigail Rose designer series paper is going away. It was absolutely one of my favorites from the annual catalog last year. All right, so there that goes. So we now have, oopsie, this is why I use liquid glue. So I can't get it. Okay, typically why I use liquid glue, if you're quick, you can sometimes peel off and oh, I'm not going to be able to. All right, I'm going to just have to deal with the fact that that's not very straight, but liquid glue, if I'd caught that, I could have probably peeled it off and got it. All right, there's our card base, and I'm going to leave this one for a minute because I'm going to do some stamping. All right, let's start decorating. So for this card, I stamped in, I don't know whether I use Blushing Bride, or I think I use Blushing Bride on this one, but I'm going to use Petal Pink, Crumb Cake, and then of course the cherry is going to be Sweet Sorbet. And I don't know if you can see, yes you can, see how shiny that is. And I'm going to show you how to do that to make it look shiny like a glass. It's easy to do. So let's do some stamping. So I'm going to just, for the moment, I'm going to stamp some of these hearts in Sweet Sorbet. This is that piece that goes on the inside of the card. So I'm just going to stamp those, and I will adhere that in just a minute. But while we've got the Sweet Sorbet out, I'm going to stamp this amazing cherry like that. And I'm going to stamp the Life, it's called Life is Sweeter with You. So if you follow me, you know I tend to fussy cut my sentiments. So I'm going to stamp that while we have it out. Okay, now this is two-step stamping. So I actually used two shades. I used, let's see, what did I do? Yep, I stamped off. So I'm going to stamp the glass. I'm just going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp the glass so that it's just really faint. And then the second glass, which has the detailed to it, I'm going to stamp full strength. Oh, and it's really light, so hopefully I get this lined up. There we go. Now I've got my glass. Okay, and then Crumb Cake. I'm going to stamp this is what will be the whipped cream. So we're just going to stamp it here. Is that fun? And then there is a straw. There are actually two straws in the stamp set. There is a straw that is just the plain, it's a straight, straight, no detail to it. Because I'm going to stamp this on Crumb Cake, I'm only going to stamp the stripe because I don't need to stamp Crumb Cake over top. If you were stamping that on white, you will probably you could do a multicolor straw. In this case, I'm doing a Crumb Cake straw. So I've got that. Okay, let's do, no, before we do some die cutting, I'm just going to take and cut this off. I'll show you why. I want to work with this glass for just a minute, and I want to show you how I made it so it's shiny, because at the moment it doesn't look shiny. So I take Versamark, and I've got my silicone mat so I don't get this all over, and I'm just going to take and apply Versamark all over this. I do this before I die cut it. And now I've got clear embossing powder. I keep my embossing powder in a clear or in a plastic container because I am terribly messy with it. So I'm just going to pick this up and we're going to sprinkle this with clear embossing powder. And when you take your heat tool, cover that up. Oops, forgot to put that in. All right, try not to burn my fingers. Take your heat tool and just let the heat melt the embossing powder. And so it will just hold it in one place until the powder starts to melt, and it will go from this dull matte finish. Grab my tweezers here from the embossing kit and hang on. It will go from this dull matte finish to a shiny finish. So hold it until you see it start to do that, and then you can start moving it around. Now I'm going to do the whole piece that has there we go. That's more than what you need, but I had embossing powder all over it. All right, so can you see I've got now it looking shiny like a glass. So now I will take and use the die cut to cut out my glass when I cut out the rest of my images. So here's my glass. I'm just going to put that there. I've got my straw die. I've got my whipped cream. Do I need it? Oh, and my cherry. Don't forget the cherry on top. Okay, so you could do this with a cherry as well, or you could use Wink of Stella. So when you're lining up the cherry, it's kind of hard to get the stem, but there's a little dot, a little hole in the top of that cherry, and you can if you can see the color of your stamped cherry through that little hole, it means you've got it pretty much lined up. Now I'm using Post-it note tape just because I want to make sure that I have it and it doesn't shift around. This will cut a little slit for my straw. So that goes in there. And you can reuse this Post-it note tape. Okay, and then we'll cut our glass. Now it looks like a glass. And then the last thing we're going to cut is our straw. I'm just going to take and cut that off of there so I'm not working with such a big piece. And we will take and cut our straw. Now, I don't know if this is going to hold or not, but we'll see if we can get this straw to hold in place. There we go. Okay, so let's if I cut this off, I can use my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So I'll bring that in. I love this little mini. This was a promotion during Celebration. So if you signed up during Celebration, you had the option to get this, which was really cool. It comes in, it's a boho blue embossing, but I have come to appreciate this. For those of you that follow me, you know that I broke my wrist in December. So I was struggling with using my full big machine. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get all of this on. Just because it weighed a lot and it just took a lot more effort to turn, whereas this is just so easy. So I've become a huge fan of these mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machines over the last few months. I'm happy to say my wrist is doing much better and I'm back using my big machine, but I still will reach for this one. Look at that little straw. Isn't that cute? Oh, so cute. All right, we can start decorating our card. Now, I already went ahead and cut out this grid. I just love this. So I cut it out of crumb cake, and it's just going to go in behind. You don't have to punch all these little bits out if you don't want to. But I'm going to kind of, I don't know, looks like maybe a tablecloth underneath it, or a doily, or just a decoration, something to add some texture. Okay, there we go. Now I'm not going to worry. I'm going to use just a little bit of glue, and I'm not going to worry about if I get glue all over, because this is going to be held down by the cup, the glass. So I'm just going to put this at an angle and hold it on till it kind of sticks down. If you wanted to make sure that this really stuck in place, then put some adhesive, the adhesive sheets behind it before you cut it, and it will definitely will stick in place. But I'm just going to put it down because I'm going to use dimensionals to put my glass on. So I'll just use 3 dimensionals. Making it like hard to see what I did last time around. All right, so this is going to go over top like that. Yeah, there we go. All right, now don't lose my dies. That's always my fear when I have little tiny dies. There's my straw. I don't want to lose that. Okay, so this whipped cream, you could actually have, I could have made that shiny too, but look at this, how cute this is. So a red straw or a pink straw through this would have been really cute, but there is this little slit that you can just stick your little straw through. And then I'm going to put this on with dimensionals, but I'm going to use a dimensional just to hold that straw in place. All right, there we go. Put that on top. And now get my little cherry out. Sticking that down. Now you could use a mini dimensional to put that on, or you could just use a glue dot. I'm going to use a mini dimensional and pop it up. Look at that. Okay, now I'm going to use some Wink of Stella on that in a minute. I find it better to use the Wink of Stella at the very end because it does take a little bit longer to dry. Now on the other card I used You're the Cherry on top, but on this one, actually, I think I'm going to use the same. Changed my mind. I was going to use the one that said Life is Sweeter with You, but I think I'm going to use You're the Cherry on top. Not sure why I changed my mind, but let's stamp this like that. And again, I'm just going to take and fussy cut. So I'm just kind of following the words around. I'm not really worrying about getting real close to the edges. If you don't want a fussy cut, use a punch, use a die, cut a rectangle and stamp it, or a square. I know I've convinced some of you that fussy cutting is a good thing, but I don't think I've convinced everybody. There we go. So we'll just use dimensionals, and I'm going to just pop that up on this side this time. All right, and somewhere, what did I do with it? Oh, there it is. I still have this piece to go on the inside. This will be where you write your note to whoever's getting the card. And look at those cute little hearts. Okay, so we've got the front, and then when we turn it over, we've got that little piece of DSP sticking out. And then for embellishments, these are the pastel sequins, and I thought that they would look pretty in this pink ones, even though these are more blushing bride-ish pink. They're pink. They're probably pink, definitely pinker than the the petal pink, but it's pink is pink. I think they'll go. There we go. All right. Isn't that cute? Such a sweet little card. And easy to make. Just once you've figured it out, you've got the measurements, it isn't really that hard to make. Trust me. I don't see three-dimensionally, so I'm the world's worst at some of these three-dimensional cards, but I love making them. I particularly struggle with boxes, but I'm getting better at it. So if you want the written instructions for this, the measurements, hop over to my blog. The link will be underneath this video, and you'll be able to get the written instructions. Maybe they'll make more sense as you watch this video. And then if you've missed any of the measurements as I've gone by, or gone through it on my card, it'll make it easier. Don't forget, if you're over on my blog, to hit the subscribe to my newsletter. And if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button and you'll get notified when I post videos or when I go live. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the card. Thanks for joining me today. Happy stamping. Bye.